Okay, I'm going to attempt to do a sunset. And first I've got to kind of put the topography in. So I'm going to, I should have wet this first, but that's okay. I'm just going to try to do this dry. And I'm going to try and get that topography to look somewhat like what I'm looking at, and hopefully I will be successful. Let's see. I'm going to get this really dark here. I'm going to add the sky in just a second here. Of course, my friend Bitsy picked one of the most complicated ranges here to paint, but that's okay. I'm gonna forgive her this time. Okay, let's lighten that up just a bit for the background. The background mountains, which are the kind of the tail end of the Chizos here. Hadn't really practiced this, so I can't really guarantee that this is going to look like exactly this range here. But I know this little beautiful little mountain right here. This is Thule Mountain, and I've seen it many times. I could probably paint that in my sleep. So we'll add that in there, and then we'll add this little hill back here. All right, now what do we do with the sky? We've got a challenge here. This has got a lot of bright colors in the sky, and I'm going to have to maintain the integrity of the brightness by using some really bright light in here. First, I'm gonna see if I can recreate. This might be a little dark. Hardly ever do this, but I'm actually going to use a little bit of white in my paint mix, and I want to add my bright colors in first. That's the way I learned it. I'm not saying I'm right, I'm just saying that's how I learned it. So I'm going to put these bright yellows in, and I'm going to get some of this down here. And now I'm going to go to, in fact, what I think I might do at this point, before that paint dries completely, I'm going to blot that yellow out. There we go. And I might even want to lift it out just a bit before I go forward, because that's the brightest part of the sky, and I want some of the white to show, so I'm going to blot it out as best I can. lift a little bit of that color out. There we go. Okay, now I've got some very subtle pinky clouds in there. Very subtle, and this is gonna take a real subtle red. Do I want to mix that with white? Or do I want to add a little yellow to give it a little orange? Yes, that's what I want to do. Now I'm using a palette that's got all kinds of color on it, and I hadn't really washed it. But I want to get this orangey pinky color very, very light. So I'm going to go ahead and start adding that in. And there's some interesting patterns to these clouds. But what I want to do with watercolor here is get my lightest colors in first. And then I'm going to add my sky, my blues, my grays. This is a very interesting, beautiful sky. Beautiful. So I want to get these subtle pinks in, and I'm just using some very light color in there. These clouds are just fabulous. So and the clouds are getting lighter as they go up, but there's still some pink in there, and I want to make sure that I get some of that pink in there, because that is creating a real nice contrast to the blue in the sky and the grays. Now I want to get a little more orange in there, so I'm gonna borrow some orange. I'm gonna tone it down with some yellow, and I've actually got a brighter color down here, so I'm going to add those oranges that are coming across the horizon and creating some real pretty sunset colors. And I might even want to, nope, we're not gonna mess with this too much. I'm gonna put a little bit in this pink, but just very subtly. There we go. Now, this is where it's going to be a little bit of a challenge, but we're going to try to get a very light gray, because some of these clouds have shadows. So there we go. Very interesting sky. Thank you, Bitsy, for providing this beautiful picture. I'm doing this from a photograph. So if I was there and doing this plein air, it might turn out a little bit different because the light's different when we're looking at it, and got a little more dark color down here than I did up in the top of the sky. But that's the way the clouds are, so I'm going to present that. Okay, now I want to wash in my blues. And I'm going to use a little cobalt blue, which is one of my favorite sky colors. I've got a real subtle blue down here in the bottom. So what I'm going to do first, I want to make sure this is kind of dry. So I'm doing this very quickly. I want to wash in my blue, so I'm going to wet the paper. Now, I can add some gray in here to create more clouds, but I'm just doing, like I said, I'm doing this very quickly, trying to show Bitsy how to do this. So I'm gonna get a nice wash in here, and I want to leave some space for white clouds too. Okay, so now I have that. Oh, I didn't see this. This is kind of cool. I've got a little, I've got some real nice gray space down here. So let's go ahead and fill that in real quick. Ah, a little too dark. That's okay. There we go. Just wanted to put that real subtly in there. And I'm going to go ahead and darken this in just a bit too. But right now, I want to get my blues in there while the paper is wet. May want to use a bigger brush because I'm trying to cover a lot right now, so I'm going to use a bigger brush and get a little more color on it. There we go. Remember, I wanted to leave a little bit of white in there so that blue's probably a little intense. My paper started to dry pretty quickly, but there we go. So that's okay. So I've got some white. And I'm gonna add a little more gray because I can. I'm just looking at this picture here and I'm trying to get where this gray is supposed to be. Some interesting patterns here in the clouds. Let's tone that down a bit. There we go.